Michel Montaigne. To the Reader. This book was written in good faith, reader. It warns you from the onset that in it I have set myself no goal but a domestic and private one. I have had no thought of serving either you or my own glory. My powers are inadequate for such a purpose. I have dedicated it to the private convenience of my relatives and friends, so that when they have lost me, as soon they must, they may recover here some features of my habits and temperament, and by this means keep the knowledge they have had of me more complete and alive. If I had written to seek the world's favor, I should have bedecked myself better, and should present myself in a studied posture. I want to be seen here in my simple, natural, ordinary fashion, without straining or artifice, for it is myself that I portray. My defects will here be read to the life, and also my natural form, as far as respect for the public has allowed. Had I been placed among those nations which are said to live still in the sweet freedom of nature's first laws, I assure you I should very gladly have portrayed myself here entire and wholly naked. Thus, reader, I am myself the matter of my book, and would be unreasonable to spend your leisure on so frivolous and vain a subject. You would be unreasonable to spend your leisure on so frivolous and vain a subject. So farewell, Montaigne, this first day of March, 1580. These essays that I'm reading, I'm not going to include the last edits that he made, just the first two editions writing. By diverse means we arrive at the same end. The commonest way of softening the hearts of those we have offended, when, vengeance in hand, they hold us at their mercy, is by submission to move them to commiseration and pity. However, audacity and steadfastness, entirely contrary means, have sometimes served to produce the same effect. Edward, Prince of Wales, the one who governed our Guienne so long, a person whose traits and fortune have in them many notable elements of greatness, having suffered much harm from the Mosons, and taking their city by force, could not be halted by the cries of the people and of the women and children abandoned to the butchery, who implored his mercy and threw themselves at his feet, until going farther and farther into the city he saw 3 French gentlemen, who with incredible boldness were holding out alone against the assault of his victorious army. Consideration and respect for such remarkable valor first took the edge off his anger, and he began with these 3 men to show mercy to all the inhabitants of the city. As Scanderbeg, Prince of Epirus, was pursuing one of his soldiers in order to kill him, this soldier, after trying by every sort of humility and supplication to appease him, resolved in the last extremity to await him sword in hand. This resoluteness of his put a sudden stop to the fury of his master, who, having seen him take such an honorable stand, received him into his favor. This example may suffer another interpretation from those who have not read about the prodigious strength and valor of that prince. Emperor Conrad III, having besieged Golf, Duke of Bavaria, would not come down to milder terms, no matter what vile and cowardly satisfactions were offered him, than merely to allow the gentlewomen who were besieged with the Duke to go out, their honor safe, on foot, with what they could carry away on them. They great-heartedly decided to load their husbands, their children, and the Duke himself on their shoulders. The Emperor took such great pleasure in the nobility of their courage that he wept with delight, and wholly subdued the bitter and deadly hatred which he had borne against this Duke. and from that time forward treated him and his humanely. Either one of these two ways would easily win me, for I am wonderfully lax in the direction of mercy and gentleness. As a matter of fact, I believe I should be likely to surrender more naturally to compassion than to esteem. Yet to the Stoics pity is a vicious passion. They want us to succor the afflicted, but not to unbend and sympathize with them. Now, these examples seem to me more to the point, inasmuch as we see these souls assailed and tested by these two means hold up unshaken against one and bow beneath the other. It may be said that to subdue your heart to commiseration is the act of easygoing indulgence and softness, which is why the weaker natures, such as those of women, children, and the common herd, are the most subject to it, but that, having disdained tears and prayers, to surrender simply to reverence for the sacred image of valor is the act of a strong and inflexible soul, which holds in affection and honor a masculine and obstinate vigor. However, in less lofty souls, astonishment and admiration can engender a like effect. Witness the people of Thebes having put their generals on trial for their lives for continuing in their posts beyond the time prescribed and foreordained for them. They just barely absolved Pelopidas, who bowed under the weight of such accusations and used only pleas and supplications to protect himself, whereas the Epaminondas, who came out and related proudly the things done by him, and reproached the people with them in a haughty manner, they did not have the heart even to take the ballots into their hands, and the assembly broke up, greatly praising the loftiness of this man's courage. Truly, man is a marvelous, vain, diverse, and undulating object. It is hard to found any constant and uniform judgment on him. Here is Pompey pardoning the whole city of the Mamertines, against which he was greatly incensed, in consideration of the valor and magnanimity of the citizen Steno, who took the fault of the people upon himself alone and asked no other favor but to bear the punishment alone. Yet Sulla's host, who displayed similar valor in the city of Praeneste, got nothing out of it, either for himself or for the others. And directly contrary to my first examples, the bravest of men, and one very gracious to the vanquished, Alexander, forcing the city of Gaza after many great difficulties, came upon Baidas, who was in command there, and of whose valor he had experienced marvelous proofs during the siege. Now alone, abandoned by his men, his armor cut to pieces, all covered with blood and wounds, still fighting on in the midst of many Macedonians who were attacking him from all sides, stung by such a dearly won victory, for among other damage Alexander had received two fresh wounds on his person. He said to him, "You shall not die as you wanted, Baidas. Prepare yourself to suffer every kind of torment that can be invented against a captive." The other, with a look not only confident but insolent and haughty, stood without saying a word to these threats. Then Alexander, seeing his proud and obstinate silence, has he bent a knee? Has any suppliant cry escaped him? I'll conquer your muteness yet, and if I cannot wring a word from it, at least I'll wring a groan. And turning his anger into rage, he ordered Baidas' heels to be pierced through, and had him thus dragged alive, torn, and dismembered behind a cart. Could it be that hardihood was so common to Alexander that, not marveling at it, he respected it the less?